When it comes to horror, I am a massive coward. When I was a kid, my mom didn't allow me to watch or play anything horror related, so I never got invested in the horror scene. Most of my horror consumption was from YouTube videos, watching the first thing to come up when I searched scariest game ever. Hell, I am such a bitch that when I watched Joker for the first time, I hugged my pillow for comfort.
Police, get what you fucking deserve!
Nowadays, the type of horror I mainly consume is analog horror, or the horrors of being an adult and having to pay bills. My first memory of experiencing horror in a video game was going to Bleak Falls Barrow at 10 years old. I was so scared of the Draugr, I would turn the TV volume all the way down. The first horror game I actually experienced was Dead Space 2. I watched my uncle play since I was too young to play it myself, but I was so fascinated and just loved watching him play. A year later, my mom bought me Dead Space 3, and I played the fuck out of it. I don't know why, but I would just constantly repeat the story dozens of times. I think I almost got to 200 hours on a 15-hour long game. I also bought Dead Space 2 myself, but I actually never played the first one. I played Dead Space 2 and 3 so many times, I never played the first game that started it all.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. When the blazing sun is gone, when the nothing shines upon, then you show your little light, twinkle, twinkle all the night.
Dead Space was released in 2008 by EA Redwood Shores before it was rebranded as Visceral Games. The director and creator is Glenn Schofield, and he does an amazing job. You can tell he poured his heart and soul into it, getting a lot of inspiration from Silent Hill and Resident Evil.
My number one goal was to scare the heck out of one person. I wanted to make the scariest game. You have to go in and go, I want to make the scariest game ever. Right? You don't go in and say, I want to make the third scary. This one I wanted to really make my creative side just really happy. And so I think you can see it in the end product. It was just really a handcrafted game.
Dead Space was only in development for about 18 months, and at that time, EA went all out on marketing. There was an interactable website that gave insight on the Dead Space universe. There was a comic series of the same name that describes the 5 weeks leading up to the game, and a straight-to-DVD prequel film, Dead Space Downfall, that was released shortly after the game itself.
I would like to severely protest bringing the artifact aboard.
You have already made your protests heard, and I have already taken them into account. Thank you.
Despite Dead Space not selling a lot of copies at release, it managed to sell over 1.4 million copies within a year. And even though Dead Space is considered a financial loss, it managed to get 2 prequel spin-off games, another prequel film, an entire trilogy, and a fucking mobile game. And it won Game of the Year? What? Hey, did you know that only a small percentage of my subscribers are actually my viewers are... You play as Isaac Clarke, a CEC ship engineer who volunteers to take part in an emergency maintenance operation aboard the USG Ishimura. Despite Isaac being a mute protagonist and not actually seeing his face, it is done very well, and the dialogue and storytelling perfectly explains his motivations in the very first cutscene.
How many times you watched that thing? Guess you really miss her. Don't worry, we're almost there. You'll be able to look her up once we're on board.
The person Kendra is referring to is Nicole, Isaac's girlfriend, a medical officer aboard the Ishimura when everything went dark.
Someone. It's all falling apart here. I can't believe what's happening. It's strange.
Isaac's team consists of you and 4 crewmates: Kendra Daniels, Zach Hammond, Dad Shorts, and G.I. Jane.
Richard!
The team attempts to communicate with the Ishimura, but there is no response.
It's a busted array like we thought. Sounds like they're having problems with their encoder.
Corporal, take us in closer and hail them. And stay clear of that debris field. We're here to fix their ship, not the other way around.
Just from the first cutscene, we are given 3 objectives / motivations. Find our girlfriend, fix Ishimura, and find out what happened here. It's an effective and powerful introduction. It's not too much or too little said. Now, before I praise this game, I need to talk shit about it real fast. When I first started the game, it was about 40 to 50 FPS, and first I thought, okay, it's a pre-rendered cutscene. That's fine, it'll go to 60 when I actually start to play. But it stayed that way. The refresh rate was fine, VSync was off, and so I did some digging to fix this, and that's what I found out. Dead Space is a console port. And it's a terrible one at that. The game's not designed to play at 60 FPS. Anything at or higher could mess with the game's physics. Regardless, I spent like 3 hours trying to troubleshoot this, trying to figure out ways to get it to run at just a minimum 60 FPS, but to no avail. But I did a test upload and it looks fine, so I gave up on it, and because it's a console port, the controls are fucked. They feel clunky and it's unpolished. Using a controller doesn't feel right, so I had to download a third-party file just to make the mouse and keyboard just tolerable. Dude, I just want this to fucking work. Despite all this, I'm gonna suck it up and I'm gonna push through. It'll be fine, I promise. This is not going to make me want to scrap this video before I even begun the game. No, it won't, I promise. Okay, so I finally figured out why it was getting low frames. So we're getting, right, 40, 50, 60 right now. We have OBS open. We're gonna close OBS. Okay. Reopen Dead Space. Runs a perfect 144. It was because I was recording the entire time. That's why I was getting low frames. Why I'm getting low frames? I never had this issue in any other game. I don't know why I'm doing it with this fucking game. From the first room, it is very clear something is wrong. Things are a mess, bags are scattered across the floor. You would think a mining ship would be busy, but there's not a single soul in sight apart from your crew.
Seems like everyone was trying to pack in a hurry.
There should be a security detail in here.
Oh, let's just see what's wrong here. You know, I'm sure everything will be fine.
The hell?
I don't know. Something's in the room with us.
Jesus! Over fire! Over fire! Get the power!
I like that we're immediately thrown into the fire. There's very little build up, and then just, hey, there's an invasion. Good luck. The chase is even scarier because 1, you're not expecting it, and 2, Isaac is defenseless without any weapons or any idea of how to kill these things, running away, hearing the horrors behind you, not being able to tell if they're close or not. Oh my god, I fucking love this game so much. After the ambush, you reach a horrific scene, getting a glimpse of the horrors that occurred here, with the message on the wall, smeared in blood, saying cut off their limbs. Next to it, your first weapon, the plasma cutter. A simple weapon, able to shoot 3 straight shots, vertically or horizontally. There are also other weapons in the game, but I'll get into them in a little bit. On the other side of the door, you hear a voice. Some people's first instinct would be to help them. So you shoot the fuse to unlock the door. I want to talk about the HUD really quick. Can you find it for me? Go on. Go on. Just show me where it is. You can find it. There. That's it. That's all there is. When Glenn was developing Dead Space, he wanted a set of rules to abide by during development, one of which was no HUD. The only thing you see is the health and stasis on your back and the ammo display. Being able to innovate something that is crucial to a player's experience is phenomenal. Most games will have outside HUDs, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that, but having it innovated properly can make the experience a whole lot better for the player. Some games are even able to blend it into the player's point of view, like Halo or COD Advanced Warfare. There's no outside HUD that affects the immersion while playing. Instead, it's integrated directly into the game's lore and universe, called a Resource Integration Gear, a RIG for short. It's a system designed to monitor a user's vitals, mainly designed for elderly patients, but it was found to have a common use for the general population. A RIG is capable of audio and video communication, visual navigation, and a holoprojector to display items. Some rigs can actually look different based on your occupation or class. Civilians will have a small spinal display, while higher occupations will have a kinesis or stasis module to aid in their profession. I love this so much. It's so cool to see them create a technology in the universe to innovate on something that just could have been an outside sticker on your screen. It goes to show how much Glenn really loved Dead Space. You no need to have a bunch of clunky UIs to tell you your health or where to go. It really makes you feel like Dead Space, huh? The only people left alive is Isaac, Kendra, and Zach. The team recuperates himself and begins to repair the Ishimura, starting with fixing the tram. And by the team, I mean you. You're the errand boy. You're everyone's bitch. You do everyone's chores and that's all you're good for.
Isaac, my balls itch. I need you to get over here and scratch them for me. If we stick together, we will find
Shut up! Also, at about this point, I noticed that there was another bug that changed my difficulty from hard to medium. And there was no way I could change it back other than using Cheat Engine. And since I was already agitated from dealing with frames issues, I just gave up and continued on medium. I love Dead Space. I love Dead Space. I'm really fucking trying here. The first chapters of the game kind of plays out like a tutorial. A lot of it is introducing you to the main mechanics and the necromorph types, which I'll talk about in the order they're introduced. If you haven't already picked up from the text on the wall, audio log on the floor, or Zach straight up telling you, yes, I know, you told me fucking 400 times already. Dude, okay, I can't, stop. The most effective and only way to kill necromorphs is to cut off their limbs. Shooting them in the head or torso makes it seem like you're shooting with Nerf darts. Fucking goddamn it. The combat is great. It's simple and it's also unique, giving the enemy a clear weak point to not make it seem like they're invisible gods. There are 7 total weapons in the game, and each one has their own unique specialties, but they all serve the same purpose, and honestly, you can go the entire game with just a plasma cutter. My playthrough, I just used a plasma cutter, pulse rifle, and the line rifle near the end because I got bored. Your rig also has a map that shows you the entire area for the game, but you don't use it much because you just have your hand as a GPS. The most important thing in this chapter is the stasis module. Stasis will allow you to slow down any object or enemy for a short period of time. This can be useful if you're overwhelmed by necromorphs or you need to complete a task to progress the story. The first chapter introduces you to 2 types of necromorphs, slashers and leapers. Slashers are kind of the mascot of the necromorphs, given their name by their specialized arms, a sharp blade from a protrusion of their bone. Slashers are unique because they have dozens of variants, wearing different clothing that indicate who they were in their life, some of which are higher difficulty, from naked, civilian, doctor, minor, armored. It's really interesting how they can tell a story from the different enemy types. And the leapers are, oh my god, they're fast, they crawl on walls, that's it. They don't get as much lore as the slashers do. Fuck off. After replacing the tram and getting the maintenance key, quarantine is lifted and Kendra and Zach head to the bridge to begin maintenance, and you are told to go back to the ship and prep it for launch. The Ishimura is suddenly put on lockdown, but it was lifted like fucking 30 seconds ago. What? The only way to lift lockdown is to get authorization codes from the captain, who is dead.
Location, med lab status, deceased.
What? How?
I can't access that information. Find the captain and you'll find his rig.
Right next to the tram, there's a store and a bench. Stores can be used to buy, sell, or store items in a vault, and you can also unlock new suits as you progress the game that increase your inventory space and armor. Schematics can be found as you progress that when taken to a shop will unlock new items to buy. And benches are used to upgrade your items using nodes. Nodes can be found in certain spots or bought in the shop. The only time inventory management is an issue really is the very first chapter. Starting in only 10 slots, it can be kind of difficult and easy to run out of space. But you unlock more slots very quickly, so it's never really a big issue. And upgrading is nice and straightforward. Upgrading is done through paths, going through a map to plan out what you want to upgrade instead of just placing it anywhere. It's a nice and simple concept. I hope they don't overcomplicate it and ruin it in a later installment.
Oh! Ew! Dude! What the fuck?
In chapter 2, right outside the tram, you find a woman that starts to speak nonsense, passing you an item before collapsing.
Just shut up.
The item she drops is the next main mechanic in Dead Space, the Kinesis module, allowing you to grab inanimate objects and move them to a different area.
This bitch empty!
You can also throw objects towards necromorphs, but it's not that effective, mainly just to stun them. One thing I want to talk about is the survivor encounters. You can find random workers of the Ishimura scattered around the ship, a couple I showed in this intro montage. They only last for a minute at most, but it helps drastically with the atmosphere, giving you more of an idea of what these people had to go through, seeing the aftermath of their pain and suffering. Inside the lab, you find a video log of Captain Matthias and Dr. Terrence Kyne discussing something called the marker.
I think that's precisely the point, Doctor. God's work.
We have to assume that the colony's problems are somehow connected to the marker.
You can assume all you want to. I do not. The marker is glorious and divine. You know that.
God moves in mysterious ways.
Anyway, we'll have it on board tomorrow. You can analyze it all you want to. What are you so worried about?
Worried? Captain, people are dying down there, killing each other. Is this madness, the transformation unitology teaches us?
Doctor. Terrence. There will always be risk when the stakes are high. And here, they're enormous. It could change everything.
Well, that's what worries me.
There's a lot in that video log to break down in terms that you or Isaac doesn't know yet, all of which I'll talk about later. You can find logs from workers as you explore, and it's an amazing way to develop world building. You are given lore directly from your crewmates, but it's rare, probably once or twice a chapter at most. Majority of dialogue is from the logs, and it's awesome. Some logs give clues from what happened here, others are from before the outbreak occurred, and others are a bit more disturbing.
What are you doing with that?
I'm now attempting to create a passage to insert the sample system into...
Later on, you discover a new necromorph type called Lurkers. Lurkers are an extremely mutated and extremely disturbing necromorph. Lurkers will crawl and attach to walls or ceilings, shooting you with tentacles in their back, which is also their weak point. It's a very disturbing species as you're introduced to them in a very weird infirmary-like room, with multiple babies in a vat, while others are empty or even broken. The only way you can actually tell what they are is by the silhouette of their head. A little cool fact I found on a wiki is it is hinted by the radiography photograph in Dead Space that lurkers can develop inside the womb of an unsuspecting mother or from the infants growing in external artificial wombs.
What the fuck?
There's also these tiny little fucking shitheads, swarmers. They're just annoying, but like in larger groups you can kill you in seconds. I fucking hate these things. On your way to Medbay, there's a video log of Nicole, a reminder of why you came here in the first place, giving you more motivation to keep pushing forward.
Get him to the table! Hold him! Nurse, you hold him down! There's recording.
You find a captain's rig, and then you're introduced by yet another necromorph type. I know, there's a lot of them. Just bear with me, okay? We'll get through them. Infectors are interesting. Their purpose is in their name. They are capable of finding corpses and turning them into an enhanced version of a slasher. Every necromorph type has their own enhanced version of itself. They deal more damage and have more health, and look a little more, scary. Yeah, we'll say that. The Infector uses the captain as an example of what it's capable of. He got caught venting. Look, there's gonna be a lot of Among Us jokes in this, okay? We're on a ship. There's monsters. Imposters. In the lab, there's a text log of an autopsy report of the captain, giving a brief but vague explanation of the cause of death. The main cause was a single prolonged trauma into the frontal lobe. The most disturbing part is in the end paragraph states the death unlawful. Whether deliberate or accidental is unsure. On your way back to the tram, Hammond explains that whatever is happening on the ship first happened on the colony on Aegis 7, the planet we are orbiting, and that the necromorphs is some form of alien life and not an infection or outbreak.
Whatever is happening around here, it came from the planet when they cracked it open. It spread to the colony and reached the ship. Isaac, this isn't an infection. It's some form of alien life. Shit, we've got bigger problems.
He also explains that the engines are offline and orbit is decaying, and we have to take the tram to engineering to fix the engines. And by we, it's you. It's always you. Again, with the fucking chores, man! Most of the story is mainly completing one thing to complete another thing, and then suddenly something else needs to be fixed. It's okay. It's not a terrible story. The gameplay and horror really makes up for it. I'll try not to spend too much time on it, but I can only condense a 10-hour-long story so much. The middle of the story is pretty boring, but trust me, about halfway, it picks up. I swear, you gotta play the game 100 hours for it to get good. Chapter 3 takes place in the engineering deck, and I love how the level design is handled. Each chapter will lock you in a section of the ship with multiple rooms, and each chapter will consist of smaller objectives leading to a larger one. But the neat part is you can do them in any order you want. Of course, it'll give you a path that is considered faster, but it's still a nice touch to give you a little bit of freedom. Each chapter will also have a hub with a store and save station next to each other, and a bench sometimes in the same room or close by. And once you complete a room, it's not locked. If you forgot something or you want to take another look around without the fear of being ambushed again, you are completely free to do so. In the main hub, Isaac finds an audio log created by an engineer named Jacob Temple, who's experiencing the same problems you were having to deal with.
Danvers and I are going to try to reach the fuel depot to see if we can fix it. Temple out.
Isaac heads to the gravity centrifuge to reactivate it. You have to use your stasis to put these clutches back into place, and this section was just dumb. I died 3 times in this section because I wasn't paying attention. You have to go around to the right instead of directly to the left, and the entire time, there's a spinning appendage you have to avoid. And because I was distracted by Zach talking to me, I kept dying from it.
There, I'm focused on the engine.
Why? What the fuck? Why does the voice line make me make me stop sprinting? I can't sprint. What the fuck?
Time we have left.
Oh, it's not. Oh, it's not the voice line, it's the goop. There's goop on the floor. That's what it is. After combining my 2 brain cells, Isaac heads back to yeah, let's talk about that tentacle real quick. Another rule Glenn had during development was to keep everything interactive, no cutscenes unless it was absolutely necessary. About halfway into development, Glenn wanted to create a medium moment of a drag tentacle dragging you across the floor, and you would have to shoot it to break free from it. After telling his crew what to do, he went out on a business trip for a few days and comes back to find out that nothing was working.
I went away for a few days on business trip. When I came back, nothing was working, but yet all the stuff was there, right? And it was done right, it was done good. But they're like, Glenn, we did everything you asked, but it's a mess. And I'm looking at it going, yeah, it is, it is.
It was such a difficult task, his team suggested to break the rule just once for this moment. Instead of making it interactive, just a scripted cutscene of Isaac shooting the tentacle. Glenn refused and kept pushing and trying to figure out what was wrong, completely halting all other development for almost a month. Because of this, Glenn had to try another perspective.
I realized I had to do one thing at a time. All right, guys, just animate the drag tentacle coming out of the hole, and it grabs him by the leg. And they're like, yeah, but the sound's like, just do that part. Came back, that worked. Then we came back and said, okay, the next thing, animate him being picked up and thrown onto the ground on his back. And they're like, yeah, but then he shoots. I'm like, no, let's just do this part. Now everybody was starting to get it. Oh.
It was all a huge feat. Even so, he decided to put it in 3 times instead of just 1. And because of this, it changed completely how they tackle problems and how they troubleshoot challenges.
When you do everything at once, you're not sure why it's not working. When you layer it and you break it down, you peel the onion peel, you keep, you add one, you add one, you add one, and then you hit a spot where it's not working. Now you can focus everybody just on that spot and get through it a lot quicker. I started calling it layering. Layering management. There's probably a term for it, but that for us, we still call it,
And I absolutely smile at this. I loved reading about this because it further proves that Glenn absolutely adored Dead Space. I sound like a broken record, but it's true. It was a shame he wasn't part of Dead Space 2 or 3. I feel like it would have made him just a little bit more special. And at the end of the day, they released the game 2 weeks early. Early! How many games do you know released earlier than announced? Besides Five Nights at Freddy's. On your way to the engine room, Kendra calls to inform us that the artifact we heard the doctors talking about earlier is called the Marker, and it's the reason why the colonists were experiencing... What was I gonna say again? Inside the engine room, we see necromorphs dragging corpses around the floor, likely to be used to create more bodies. Here, you also discover a new necromorph type, the Pregnants.
Am I pregnant? Am I pregnant? Am I pargant? Am I gregnant?
Pregnants play similarly to slashers, but with a massive belly. Killing them will have a chance to release a bunch of swarmers. Oh fuck, get off! Get off! Get off! Zach calls to tell Isaac that we're now back in orbit, but Kendra, being a woman, says we need to reinstate the defense system to protect us from the debris field caused by the planet crack.
Kidding me? Are you kidding me? What?
On their way to the tram, one more encounter happens.
Isaac, where are you? It's me, Nicole.
Chapter 4, Kendra begins to call Zach sus, saying that he knew about the marker this whole time.
Really? CEC didn't know anything about it. You're lying.
Back up!
Isaac meets up with Zach at the bridge, saying that he needs to manually reroute power to the cannon to get it working.
Shit! Stand back! Oh, that one was dead when I sealed the pod. These things don't die easily.
Huh, interesting. I'm sure that won't have any effect on the story. Back on the captain's nest, a massive brute smashes through the door. They have armor on their arms and shoulders, so the only way to kill them is to shoot them in the yellow weak points, located between their shoulders and their back. I love how enemies show up. In most horror games, enemies will tend to be sitting there waiting for somebody to show up, but almost every encounter in Dead Space, you will enter a room completely empty, walking in with a false sense of security, and suddenly...
Decontamination sequence activated. Please stand by.
Lights flashing and multiple noises all happening at once, giving the player sensory overload, not knowing how to react. It's terrifying. I would always keep my weapon up because it's my only light source and always being at the edge of my seat, constantly prepared for any necromorph that could jump up at me. After killing the brute, this happens.
Isaac, make us whole again.
Yeah, that's fine. Inside the elevator, you find a video log that shows how the captain truly died.
This is mutiny. You'll all be tried for mutiny. Kind, make them listen to reason.
Settle down, then. Hold him. By Maritime Law, Article 5469, I hereby declare Captain Benjamin Mathias unfit for duty.
The marker must be delivered to the church. Terrence, please.
I'm sorry, Ben, but I can't let you do this.
Traitor. Heretic.
Hold his head.
Murderer!
Hold him.
Dead.
No, it was an accident. I had to stop him.
Arrest the doctor.
The captain has succumbed to the dementia and schizophrenia people were experiencing, succumbing to the marker. Whether his death was intentional or accidental, we will never really know. We hear more about the marker and again about the church unitology we talked about in chapter 2, now giving a connection with the marker, the unitology church, and the people going mad, but it's all still vague with no clear story to what happened here. On your way to the cannon, a bloodied man cries out to us.
Make us whole again.
We've heard the same phrase just before from Nicole on the screen, but we don't really know what it means. Isaac just carries on. There's also another log of Temple, who we heard in chapter 3, going to find somebody named Elizabeth.
I'm heading for hydroponics to find Elizabeth.
In this section, you are taken outside into space. You have to make your way to the other side while avoiding asteroids with the blockades, but they only have a certain amount of protection before they're unusable. It's not a hard section, you just have to be wary of your oxygen. You're not going to be able to make it unless you have an air canister or have upgraded your oxygen level. On the other side, you have to defend off asteroids while Zach tries to fix the automatic defense. It's an okay section, nothing big to talk about, just a defend X for Y amount of time part. Getting the cannon system back online, Kendra calls to tell Isaac that something is inside the hydroponics deck, causing the oxygen to be poisoned and unusable. Isaac needs to hurry back to Medbay to... Medbay. It's not fucking called Medbay, man. Oh my god. We also learned that the necromorphs are something called biorecombinators.
These things are biorecombinators. They take dead tissue, absorb it, and mold it into new forms. One iteration seems to have the sole purpose of infecting corpses. The others, well, seem to be making corpses to infect. And that body tissue we keep seeing on the walls is part of it too. I found a report that says it's a habitat changer.
I don't like how when you fix one problem, suddenly something else life-threatening needs to be fixed, unrelated to the previous task. It feels forced, not really progressing through the story naturally. It's just a sudden change. And it feels more forced when Isaac is just allowing his crewmates to tell him what to do. But honestly, it kind of makes sense. From the beginning, our number one motivation was just finding Nicole, so if having to be a submissive bitch the whole time gets us ever so closer to finding her, it's all worth it. Chapter 5, Isaac needs to create a poison to kill whatever has contaminated the oxygen supply. In the hub station, an unknown voice speaks out to him.
You can't stand in the way of God's plan, the natural order. Are you blind like the rest?
We aren't the only ones alive in here. There's somebody else. Whether he's ally or foe, we don't know. You do some backtracking to locations for previous chapters, but it's different. Things have changed, and it's not for the better. It's darker, the blood seems more noticeable, it's a lot more uneasy. Isaac encounters his first guardian, and personally, these are the most terrifying things in Dead Space. It's a corpse that is merged into the corruption, for the purpose of being a safe zone, as Kendra stated in Chapter 4. It'll also throw little pods at you that can shoot you as its defense mechanism. Its sole purpose is to reproduce. The screams of agony and pain suggest that part of the human brain is still alive and functioning.
This guy moaned at least this loud.
You almost feel sorry for it, making you want to kill it just to put it out of its misery. Getting the poison, Isaac meets Callus Mercer, the voice that was heard earlier, who begins to speak about how our fight is pointless and that the end of the human race is our destiny.
Your fight for survival is admirable but pointless. And yet you keep on going. Am I the only one who sees that we have died out a long time ago? We just haven't accepted it yet. Our future, your future, the future of our race ends here. Allow me to introduce you to humanity's child, the children that will replace us, our greatest creation.
The Hunter is a unique enemy that regenerates its own limbs. This is terrifying. I know I said the Guardian was the most terrifying thing. No, it's definitely this. Every necromorph up until this point you have been able to kill, and now you have an enemy that cannot be killed by conventional means. Instead, you are the prey. What's even more disturbing is that the Hunter is a man-made product, created by Mercer. The Hunter is an experiment that he created from an unwilling test subject from an audio log we found a little earlier.
He trusts me, Dr. Kite. He puts his life in my hands. I'm now attempting to create a passage to insert the sample system into...
All you can do is run away, and because Mercer is locking all the doors, there are times that you are locked in a room with it, and it makes it even more scary when you have to juggle other necromorphs trying to kill you. What's great about it is that it's not a quick jump scare, it's a long-form terror that gives you constant dread and anxiety, not knowing when it'll show up, which I'll talk about more in a minute. Mercer cuts off the oxygen and you have to go back to the hub to turn it back on, and I like this section. When you're in a vacuum, there's little to no sound, but there's music when you have to be fighting necromorphs. So there's this tense moment where you hear combat music, but you don't know where enemies actually are. When the music fades away, you feel relief. Whatever you were fighting is gone, at least for a little while. The music is great too. It conveys a perfect combination of suspense, despair, fear, and horror. The music is also programmed to start as a jump scare when you first notice a necromorph. And there's always an ambience in the background. Metal clanking, banging noises, the sound of doors opening and closing being unnecessarily loud. There's even faint whispers that you can hear sometimes.
Search and rescue. Please review the following information to increase chances of survival. A desire for social interaction, physical contact, affection, or support may lead you to make poor judgments and decisions in multiple areas.
Like and subscribe. You need to head back to where you first saw Mercer to complete the poison, and you're ambushed again by the Hunter. Your first mini-boss, per se. It's not difficult. All you have to do is lure him into the center room, stasis him, and then go into the room that Mercer was in and cryogen the room. Now that Isaac has the poison, Kendra overrides the lockdown and Isaac takes the tram to hydroponics. Chapter 6, Isaac finds an audio log of a woman named Elizabeth Cross, the same person we've been hearing about in Jacob's logs, saying that the captain has assigned a no-fly order to the colony on the planet's surface, indicating that the Necromorphs spread quickly on the colony and didn't want it to spread further on the ship. Clearly, that didn't work. One thing I like about this hallway is it looks all clean and normal, but to the right is a bathroom littered in bodies with blood splattered everywhere. I love this. The very beginning, it gives you a false sense of security, seeming like everything is normal, but just looking to the right immediately reminds you that this place is anything but. Moving forward, we see that Zach is in a terrible condition. The air is getting worse, and the only reason that we aren't affected by it is because we have a helmet on. Just put on a helmet, idiot. I really like the atmosphere in this chapter. When you're in a greenhouse, you can hear chirping and animal sounds. Likely it's just fake. But during combat, the noises will grow louder and more erratic, blending in with the combat music, using the environment to create a unique spin to it. You have to go around killing wheezers that are poisoning the air supply. There's nothing much about them, they just wheeze while emitting spores. They don't deal damage at all.
Cigarettes are bullies. Don't let tobacco control you.
While doing this, you see Nicole once more, but on a computer screen like last time.
Isaac, make us whole again.
Turns out Kendra is also experiencing something similar to you.
The crew all began having mass hallucinations, and, well, I just saw my brother on a security monitor, and that's just not possible.
While heading to food storage, there is a new necromorph called Exploders. They will use their explosive sack on their arm to kamikaze in an attempt to kill you. You can also just shoot them from afar to take out anyone in an area of the blast. They also have a loud, high-pitched screech to indicate who they are. I really like the little details in that. Every necromorph will have a unique sound to give them more personality and an idea of what you're up against from far away. There is a massive hallway covered in the corruption that we've been seeing for a while now. I hate this room. It completely puts me in an uneasy state, and I just don't feel safe here. Like it's gonna collapse in at any time. There's also another log of Dr. Cross saying that she's heading to the mining deck to find Jacob. The poison canister didn't work, so you have to go in and kill it yourself.
Entering zero gravity.
This is the Leviathan, the first of 3 bosses in Dead Space. It's a circular room and you have to destroy 3 tentacles. The second phase is you have to do the same thing, but this time avoid bombs it throws at you. There's also tanks to help you out. It's not a difficult boss, but I kept wasting my bullets because I kept shooting at the center because I thought the center was a weak point. After killing the Leviathan, Zach is suddenly nowhere to be found, so it's just up to Isaac and Kendra to continue operations, sending Isaac to the mining deck to launch a SOS beacon. Now, I am halfway into the story, and there's something I haven't really covered yet, the difference between horror and terror. There's a common misconception that they mean the same thing, but they're totally different. Terror is the anticipation of something, the feeling of dread, anxiety, and a build-up to something that could happen at any time. Horror, on the other hand, is a revolting feeling, the feeling of experiencing something that has just occurred, like a jump scare. Both of these are controlled by fear, utilizing our primal instinct of survival to create a haunting experience. A good example of this is Subnautica, the terror of hearing the screeches from below, the darkness, but not knowing where it came from, and not really knowing what to do with that information other than just to stay alert. Horror is the realization of where those sounds came from, and your fight or flight going into effect. In a simpler explanation, horror is what you see, and terror is what you don't see. To dumb it down even more, terror led dark, horror led jump scare. Both of these Dead Space does wonderfully. The bodies on the floor, the constant rattling and screams. It's fantastic. Even though I've played through the game a few times now, I still get goosebumps of what to expect. And again, it proves how much passion went into Dead Space and how much effort was put into it. Chapter 7, Isaac needs to plant an SOS beacon onto an asteroid and shoot it up into space. One thing I want to quickly bring up is when you're walking on corruption, the aiming gets fucked. Turning my sensitivity up to the equivalent of a Wraith main in Apex Legends. Why it does this, I have no idea. I think the game was just fucking up while I had OBS open, but it was never really a massive issue because it seemed to go back to normal when I aimed down, but still annoying regardless. In the same area, there was an audio log of Dr. Kine taking the man hostage as a means to get the marker being held in storage.
Come any closer, and I'll shoot him. Give me the access codes to the cargo bay. You idiot! This is processing. Why the hell would I have codes to cargo? Don't lie to me. I'm sick of everyone lying to me.
On your way to the beacon, we see Nicole show up in person for the first time in Dead Space.
Is that really you? It feels like it's been so long. But I can help you now. Come with me.
She helps you disable the lock to get the beacon while you fend off a horde of necromorphs that are trying to hunt y'all down. She unlocks the door only to say I love you and to disappear again.
But I'll find a way. I love you. This will all be over soon.
It's a weird interaction. Since Isaac has no voice lines, there's no way for him to show any emotion. But it's another burst of motivation, a reminder why you came here to the Ishimura, now ever more closer to Nicole than ever. On Deck C, there's an audio log of somebody committing suicide by cutting off his own limbs, as he doesn't want to turn into one of the necromorphs.
At least if I don't have any limbs, I won't be able to kill anyone when I'm infected. Please tell Dawn and the kids that I love them. Oh, God. God. One more. One more.
It's terrible to hear what people had to deal with. Some people going insane from the marker, others giving up and taking their inevitable deaths into their own hands. You also get ambushed in the main hub. Up until this point, your hub was the safest place in the chapter, but you aren't even safe there. This also happens in chapter 3, but it's not as cool. The last thing you have to do is you need to turn off the gravity tethers and put the beacon on the asteroid. Now, I don't know if it was the game that couldn't convey the objective right, or I just cannot use my brain properly. The issue I had with this part is it said that there were 4 tethers to destroy, but I only saw 2, and I was confused sitting here for like 10 minutes. I tried to stasis the asteroid, I shot the objects rotating around it, I looked everywhere inside. Then I realized I could get onto the asteroid and go outside. And then I died. So I had to go through all that again, went outside, shot the rest of the tethers, and then I fucking accidentally threw myself into outer space. So I had to do it all again for a 3rd time, then I was able to launch the asteroid. They should, like, make it to where it automatically saves once you do, like, at least one of the objectives. Chapter 8, we are back on the bridge. Kendra informs us that the SOS beacon worked and the USM Valor has warped to our location. The problem is, Isaac needs to get the comms array back online or else they aren't able to communicate with them.
To it until the comms array is fixed. I'm gonna hack the door to communications for you. Get in there and find the comms control station.
On your way to the array, things are becoming more demented. We notice the walls are turning corrupted, guardians being in places that weren't there before. Later on, you discover a divider, a tall and skinny necromorph that divides into smaller swarmers after being damaged. These things are horrifying. From far away, they emit a loud moaning noise. It's one of the few necromorphs that can instantly recognize without even seeing it. It reminds me of Siren Head. It's really frightening. There is also an audio log that explains more about the Ishimura.
Operator Bailey reporting. The ship is under attack, but requests to issue a distress call have been repeatedly denied by Captain Matthias. He won't say it, but everyone on the bridge knows why. This is an illegal operation in a prohibited system. We've all known for months, and we kept our mouths shut. Not anymore. Mayday! Mayday!
So we are in an illegal mining operation in a prohibited solar system, and the colonists found a marker that had been causing dementia and insanity, and ultimately the necromorph invasion. So why are we here in the first place if the captain knew the planet was off limits? Trust me, it'll all be explained very soon. Getting the comms array working, the signal isn't strong enough. Kendra says there's something organic outside that's blocking the signal. So Isaac gets back to the cannon and holy fucking shit! Kill it! Kill it! Kill it! The Slug is the second boss in Dead Space. You have to shoot off the tentacles while at the same time avoiding any debris it throws at you. The issue I had with this boss is the tentacles were moving extremely fast, but my cannons were not hit scan. Plus, with the controls being janky at low frames, it was difficult to complete, but still I managed to get it first try. The Slug from a story standpoint is terrifying though. This is the largest necromorph we had seen so far, so how the hell could something this big be created? Killing the Slug, we were finally able to contact Valor.
Damn it! Respond!
Oh no, there's a necromorph outbreak. No, they opened the escape pod from chapter 4. No, it has relevancy. No.
Wish I could just talk to someone. It's all falling apart here.
Isaac.
Zach is alive and says screw it and declares the Operation Fubar. Now our job is to get the hell out of the Ishimura. So Isaac's new task is to get a singularity core from the Valor to get the escape shuttle working. One thing I wanted to bring up but couldn't figure out a good way to budget in is the death animations. I haven't brought them up yet because I never actually experienced one in my first playthrough. When a necromorph grabs you, you are put in a quick time event. The longer you are in it, the more your health drains. If your health drains to 0, you die. With a unique animation for each necromorph, and they can be revolting. They can be upwards of a minute and it's gruesome and gory the entire time. But it's really cool to show how much work the devs put into the game and animations you might never see in your playthrough. Chapter 9, Zach says that the Valor being here is not a coincidence, that they are in fact full of weapons and ammunition, ready for a war.
They're on a seek and destroy mission. Do you hear me?
The Valor crashed inside ore storage, causing radioactive ore to get loose, meaning we have to throw them into space before it can get inside. Oh, fuck. Inside the Valor storage, there's a new necromorph called Twitchers. No, not that one.
Cheeto.
Twitchers are remnants of the UMS Valor crew, having stasis modules causing them to go haywire, making them extremely fast versions of a slasher. Odd looking bloke, that one. Must be Welsh. Isaac finds another message from Nicole, again with the same ominous message, make us whole again. This time it's more disturbing. This time a skull flashes on the screen. Going deeper into the ship, Dr. Terrence Kind, the doctor you've been hearing about the whole game, and the person who killed Captain Matthias, is discovered to still be alive. He goes on to say the church has been wrong this whole time, and that we need to bring the marker back to Aegis 7 before things get worse.
You must understand, the forces at work here are greater than you can imagine. If you leave now, you condemn all humanity. The planet will never stop, never rest unless the marker is returned. Don't you see? The church is wrong. This is all a trap. I've seen it. Please, you must help me.
It is clear that he has been somehow listening in on our conversations because he is aware of our plan to use a shuttle to escape the Ishimura, and it's also brought up in the last chapter by Kendra.
I think someone's listening in on us, so be careful.
But that really isn't important right now. All that matters still is getting the shuttle working. But before I do, I need to work on my shooting skills. Yes, there's an actual shooting range. You get rewards every time you finish a level. Thank you, Dead Space. Around the ship, there are crew members from the Valor, all in military suits, and farther in, there's a text log from the commander stating that the Valor's goal was to retrieve the marker this whole time, but only found out where we were because of the SOS beacon. Now that Isaac has a singularity core, the ship begins to become unstable, about to explode. Isaac attempts to escape until meeting Zach again.
Isaac, over here. I've been trying to reach you. My comm was out. You got the singularity core. That's our ticket out of here. Get that core yourself. Don't wait for me. Oh, fuck me.
Zach is dead. One of the very few people still staying on this ship. The leader of the crew is gone, leaving only you, Kendra, and that insane doctor. But you can't give up yet. Isaac is so close. And I am so close to finishing this video. Holy shit, we're at
48.5 minutes.
How the fuck did I get this far? Chapter 10, Isaac heads to the crew deck to find the shuttle. The first room is horrific, what looks like a cult ritual. You can only imagine what happened here with corpses on the floor all covered in a mask, all with the same hole in their head with what looks like an oxygen mask on their shoulder, probably to put themselves unconscious before allowing themselves to be punctured in the skull. There is also scribblings all over the wall, along with a small statue of an object similar to the structure we've seen across the game. Also, in the background, you can hear a twinkle little star, giving more of a haunting feeling. And in the next room, there's Zero-G basketball, baby, let's go, let's get them home runs, let's go Lakers! Later on, we find Mercer again, along with Temple and Cross, the two people we've heard recurring logs from throughout the game, with Cross already lifeless on the floor, being captured and tortured by Mercer, with Jacob next in line.
Conviction of a true believer!
If you haven't figured out why they put a hole in their frontal lobe, it's so the infectors have an easier way of passage to turn them into necromorphs. How thought-provoking. Kyne contacts Isaac again, saying that he wants to meet once he has all 3 nav cards. You also get caught by the tentacle again. You can actually see other tentacle holes around the game, some of them actually don't activate. I like that because it gives you an anxious feeling of expecting something to come out, but it actually doesn't. Later on, there's a hollow message of Mercer, spewing more unitology propaganda, saying that the people must kill themselves in the name of the marker. From the sound of it, people have already begun to lose faith in the church, seeing firsthand of what the marker is truly capable of.
We have been waiting for. Don't listen to them! Come back! Come back!
Getting the last nav card, Mercer locks you in the crew deck with the Hunter once again, having to escape the quarters before getting caught. Isaac meets Kyne in person. Kyne seems to be talking to his wife Amelia, but according to Mercer in Chapter 5, his wife died years ago.
He told me he had spoken to his wife, but Amelia Kyne has been dead for some years.
Kyne goes on to explain that the colonists on the surface found something called the hive mind, saying it's the source of the Necromorph's hostility, and taking the marker away has caused it to get angry, causing the invasion, and that using the shuttle to return the marker will put it back to sleep. Return the marker, destroy the hive mind, no more Necromorphs. Easier said than done. In the captain's room, there are a few logs that give an expedition dump, giving a clear explanation as to why we're here in the first place. The colonists were on a legal mining operation for resources. During operation, they unearthed the marker. Unitologists from the colony notified the church, sending to Ishimura as a cover-up to take the marker, with Matthias being the leader of the pilgrimage, with the purpose of sending the marker onto the ship back to Earth, regardless of the reports of violence in the colony. Matthias then stated a no-fly order in hopes to quarantine the outbreak, which obviously didn't work. The Unitologists were so blinded by their beliefs, only thinking about how the Necromorphs are the next sentient race, the human race coming to the end with the Necromorphs taking their place. The planet crack took place the day after, which assuming that is what awoke the hive mind.
To decipher the marker, and when we return home, we'll pass all our findings and the marker to the church. The government isn't going to cover this one up. Altman be praised.
In the next room, there is a list of known Unitologists on board, with Matthias, Kyne, and Mercer being on top, with other names we have never heard before.
Irrelevant!
There's also a text article giving more insight into the church, saying that they own 78 billion in market stock and secretly running a ship fleet, indicating that the Unitology is a higher power than we thought, possibly stronger than the government itself. The next room is a shuttle, and you have to test the burners to make sure they work. Oh fuck, Jesus, no! No, 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 no! Oh, thank God. Kyne takes the shuttle back to the flight deck, so you follow him using the tram. On your way, you see Mercer again, this time completely losing it, giving himself to the infector, essentially killing himself, in the name of Unitology as it is peers.
And now it's time for us to take the voyage together. Transcend death. The future take its course. Join me as I gaze upon the face of God.
Chapter 11, we go full circle, going back to the place where it all began, the flight deck. Kyne opens the cargo bay for Isaac to retrieve. We finally get to see the marker for the first time, the root cause of everything that has happened, the outbreak, the insanity, all the trauma, all right in front of you. You have to move it all the way to the flight deck, and this part sucked for me, because whenever I find a store, I always give myself a set amount of items, a med pack, and a stack of ammo for every weapon I have. But what I didn't know is there's a massive horde of necromorphs, and it was just too much to handle. I kept trying to stasis the tentacles, but I kept missing, and when I did hit them, they were fucking immune. And there's like 5 of them alone, with dozens of other necromorphs trying to surround you, and I was lucky they dropped ammo that I needed. Isaac gets the marker onto the shuttle, now able to finally board it, ready to take it back to the surface, and putting an end to the
Wait, Amelia, where are you going?
Kendra was secretly a government agent the whole time, trying to find a marker and bring it back to Earth. The marker that we have, that she calls it Marker 3A, is a man-made reverse engineer 200 years ago from the real marker found on Earth. The government placed Marker 3A onto Aegis 7 to study the effects.
Kind didn't know us. It was the government's mess to begin with. This whole planet is one big experiment. The marker, this divine relic, made by man. They reverse engineered it a couple of hundred years ago from the real marker, a true alien artifact recovered on Earth. So they dug it up, studied it, and they made it their own. Then they brought it to Aegis 7 and activated it.
After realizing what it was capable of, they left it there and called the system off limits. Then the CEC started conducting illegal operations, unaware of the marker, causing the colonists to resurface it. Kendra escapes with the marker, leaving you behind, all alone with no way of escaping.
See you around. Or maybe not.
Isaac, Nicole, I need you to help me. Help us. Now. I'm in the flight control room. Please, Isaac, hurry. Please. I love you.
Nicole is in the control deck, saying that she is able to help you. This is the first time we were able to be face to face with her. Last time we were separated with the gap. She tells us we can actually pilot the shuttle remotely. The closer you are to the prompt, the computer screens begin to flash scribblings, repeating your name in whispers, also Nicole repeating the same phrase, make us whole.
Here. Make us whole again. Make us whole again.
Isaac gets the shuttle back, however Kendra uses an escape pod.
Escape pod away, crew shuttle USG-09. Repeat, shuttle has ejected escape pod.
It doesn't matter. She can't escape her fate. None of us can.
Isaac and Nicole take the shuttle themselves to the colony to put back the marker.
You're doing the right thing, Isaac. We're together now. The way it always should have been. I knew you'd come back for me. Nothing can stop us now.
The final chapter, Dead Space, takes place on the surface of Aegis 7, the first time we were not in Ishimura. Isaac needs to take the marker to the pedestal site to put the hive mind to sleep. And this is a fairly normal section, just move the marker while fighting off hordes of necromorphs as you progress. However, a huge pet peeve I have is if you go forward a section, you can't go back. So I missed the power node room, which annoyed me because it was the very last secret room in the game, and I possibly had missed out on crucial information to the lore. No, dude, don't tell me I'm locked in here. Dude, bro. The one fucking power node locked room I didn't get. Dude, that's depressing. I've gotten almost every single unlockable first run, and I lose at the very end. Isaac gets to the pedestal site, and the marker seems to release some form of energy. Nicole comes out from behind the marker, saying that they are now made whole again, only to disappear.
Thank you, Isaac. I always believed in you. I knew you'd return to me. We are whole again, Isaac. We are whole.
Emergency. Geo-orbital gravity tethers offline. Tectonic load released. Impact imminent. Evacuate this area immediately.
The energy flash somehow releases the planet tethers, meaning the giant rock above you is headed to crash into the planet. Isaac rushes to the shuttle, only to be trapped by Kendra. And I'm just gonna play this entire clip by itself.
You really didn't think I was just gonna walk away, did you? I can't do that. Marker's coming with me. It's a shame. I was starting to like you. Even if you are insane. What, you don't believe me? Take a look at yourself. Better yet, take a look at the video from Nicole. And this time, watch it right to the end.
Isaac, it's me. I wish I could talk to you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about everything. I wish I could just talk to someone. It's all falling apart here. I can't believe what's happening. It's strange. Such a little thing. I In the end, it all comes down to this one little thing. I didn't want it to end like this. I really wanted to see you again. Just once. I loved you. I always loved you.
See? You're insane. Just like Kai, just like the captain. Nicole has been dead this whole time. Whatever you were seeing was caused by that. You are its pawn. But don't worry. It will be in good hands now. Far away from this damned place. Goodbye, Isaac.
I love everything about this scene. The zooming into the rig link, the music perfectly timing the entire scene, Isaac shaking his head, the only times he shows an emotional reaction. You never actually hear Isaac speak this entire game, but this really captivates what he's feeling. His entire motivation, the reason he stood against all odds, was for Nicole, only to find out it was just an apparition of the marker, a figment of his mind, and it's been foreshadowed this entire time. Multiple times we've seen Nicole on a computer screen saying the same phrase over and over. One time a skull flashes, Kendra even experiencing the same thing, seeing her brother.
Well, I just saw my brother on a security monitor.
The constant whispers around the ship, it's a calling from the marker. His world is crushed. It's also speculated Isaac knew Nicole was dead the whole time watching the video off screen, only pausing the video before the end to keep himself in denial, still going to the Ishimura to try to hold on to any bit of hope he has left. But being confronted the truth head on makes this much more impactful. Fun fact, the first letter of every chapter in the game spells out Nicole is dead, giving more foreshadowing to the big reveal. Kendra leaves you for dead, and you take a slow walk back to the ship. The music getting louder and louder, each beat shaking everything around you. Giving you time to internalize the story, giving more into Isaac's feeling from denial, sadness, and anger. Isaac makes a run for the shuttle before Kendra leaves you behind, only to discover the hive mind.
Oh my god!
The hive mind is alive. The marker didn't put it to rest, it has awakened it. The marker has been manipulating people this whole time, giving people signals to return the marker back to the surface, making them think it was their idea, but in reality, it was all the marker, making them think it would stop the outbreak, not spread it. Also, each boss is at the end of every word. Leviathan for Nicole, the slug for is, and the hive mind for dead. It's a nice little detail. This boss was a very good one, a test to everything you've learned so far, trying to avoid his tentacles from squishing you. The screeches are intense, such a massive creature. You think to yourself, how the fuck am I gonna kill this? But all you can do is try. And you do. The hive mind is dead, quickly rushing to the shuttle to finally escape, just narrowly missing the planet crack. and the mission is done, now finally getting a look at Isaac's face, being hidden the whole game. The player sympathizing with Isaac, trying to internalize everything that has happened so far, getting a look at Nicole one more time only to quit again, not needing to watch the end. It's a touching ending in somber darkness, the end of Isaac's story. Ooh, cliffhanger. How brave. It's a nice cliffhanger, indicating that the marker has still rotted Isaac's mind, which is tackled more in the sequel, baby! Let's go! More Dead Space, Cringe Space 2 in 3 months! Woo! Nah, I still got more shit to talk about. Finishing the game, you are rewarded a few things. A military suit, backstory logs give more insight into the lore, 50,000 credits, 10 power nodes, and New Game Plus, designed to let you focus more on achievement hunting. But sadly, there isn't any achievements in the Steam port, so there really isn't a need for it, other than if you just want to play the game again. And lastly, the new difficulty, Impossible Mode. And right after finishing the game, I thought I would give it a try to see how far I can go. And then the game crashed. The game just crashed. Thank you, Dead Space. Impossible Mode is, you guessed it, impossible. Enemies deal much more damage and have more health, and the AI is more efficient as well, tending to avoid your shots more, so aiming is key. This difficulty, I would see myself staying more focused, coming out of fights with very little health and ammo, audibly saying, thank fuck. You really have to put more thought into where you want to utilize your resources. In the first chapter, I got soft locked after the Killian exploded. It took me 4 attempts to get out of there and only made it because the RNG gave me enough ammo to survive. A good strat is to shoot Necromorphs in the crotch with the plasma cutter. In theory, it's a higher chance to shoot both legs at once, dealing double damage, essentially cutting ammo consumption in half, which has worked out for me so far. It's also best to invest into damage early so you use less ammo. The wiki also states DLC suits and weapons can make the run easier, but the Steam port comes with nothing of it. There's no bonus award either other than just an achievement, but again, there's no achievements on Steam or Origin. So there's not really an incentive to do it other than personal gain.
Necromorphs? Yeah, nah. Sorry, man. I'm not really into cat girls.
Besides the game itself, there's a lot of prequel media that was released before and after the Dead Space release. The comic, Dead Space Downfall, No Known Survivors, Dead Space Extraction, and the mobile game. The comic series is 40 minutes long, and it's a very nice addition to the lore. It explains the 5 weeks before the events of Dead Space, giving more insight to what transpired on the colony. It's interesting to see how the marker affected the colonists, slowly driving everyone into madness, with the unitologists doing everything in their power to get the marker onto the Ishimura by any means necessary. Something shown is that a lot of unitologists will enter discussion with Altman be praised, the creator of unitology, giving more of a cultish vibe.
Altman be praised. I don't believe this.
The comic also emphasizes how much influence and power unitology has. I'd like to compare it to the network in Utopia. No clear answer to who is in it or leading it, possibly even a higher and stronger power than the world government, even having ranks inside the church as well. There's a scene where 50 people conduct a mass suicide event in the Union Square, and they also hit women multiple times.
Right on, bitch.
It's a good comic. I really love that they made this. Overall, it's good, but the voice acting can be inconsistent with conveying emotion. The movie tackles more into the outbreak on the Ishimura, also taking place right after the comic series, the comic ending right when the planet crack occurred, and Downfall picking up after it. The protagonist, woman,
Girl! Oh my god!
is a security chief aboard the Ishimura, following her around taking out Necromorphs with her team. The film is a mixture of 3D animation mixed with 2D. It can look a little off sometimes, but that adds a little bit of charm to it. The only question I have is how the fuck is the rig on a clothing piece? Like, what? It's not even on her at first. There's returning characters like Kyne and Matthias, and it's cool that Kyne also features the same voice actor from the game as well. The film actually has a decent lineup, like Jim Cummings and Nika Futterman. And they also have Kevin Richardson? What? How? Some characters also look different, like the captain has hair now for some reason.
It does not look like a sodding tic-tac.
It seems the marker was giving signals to the colonists to kill himself to create bodies for the Necromorphs, but it still doesn't really explain how the Necromorphs are initially created, like how their corruption starts. It does explain how the Necromorphs got to the ship, because of a fucking simp. It's clear Kyne was more skeptical of the marker, realizing that the Necromorphs were never mentioned in the church, at least at their ranks. For a small budget straight to DVD film, the fight scenes are pretty gruesome, and overall it's a good movie. Honestly, it's one of the better game adaptations I've seen. Bro, they even brought the swarmers in here? Fuck, I hate those things. Get the fuck out of here. We actually see Nicole. It's not really needed. Really just fan service. It's alright, I guess. The film ends with Alyssa sending an SOS beacon, killing herself in the process, with the USG Kellyanne responding to the beacon, giving a proper continuation and timeline to the story. There's not really much to say of No Survivors. It was unfortunately shut down after the release of Dead Space. If you go to the website now, it leads to a Japanese site for giving jobs to the unemployed. Okay. There's not even anything on the Wayback Machine. Only written record I could find of it was on the fandom wiki. But there's a video somebody made that explains it, which is convenient. It goes through the stories of 2 Ishimura crew members during their life and what their experience was during the initial outbreak. I'll put the guy's video in the description, it's pretty neat. And Extraction was a first-person rail shooter that was released on the Wii and PlayStation 3. I actually remember playing this on the PlayStation, using that gimmick PlayStation move that the Xbox also had. That was a great era for video games.
You know, Connect, I'll be honest, it was a disaster. It was a disaster.
It's only about 5 hours long, and you play as multiple protagonists throughout, taking place on each of 7 and aboard the Ishimura, even the same areas you were in Dead Space. Nicole also shows up here. That's it. And the mobile game, it's one of the games of all time. I'm not fucking talking about it. After Dead Space, Glenn left EA to create his own studios, Sledgehammer Games, only to be acquired by Activision later that year, directing multiple COD games like Modern Warfare 3, Advanced Warfare, and World War II. Then in 2019, he left Sledgehammer to become CEO of Krafton, to create a new game called the Callisto Protocol, a spiritual successor to Dead Space, and I'm super excited for this. We only have a teaser trailer so far, but it looks gruesome, and there's also hints of an immersive HUD. It's also set in the PUBG universe? What? I mean, if someone said we'll give you loads of money if you make a game set in our universe, I'd probably do it too. There's also a remake of the first Dead Space in the works by Motive Studios, and it's nice that Glenn doesn't have any bad blood with EA since he's not a part of it. I'm incredibly excited for both of these projects. Just please, please, Glenn and Motive, don't fuck it up. That's all I ask. Despite Dead Space being a 14-year-old game at this point, it still incredibly holds up. It may not have a great story, but overarching storytelling, gameplay, and horror is phenomenal. Everything feels innovative and unique. The atmosphere is perfect as well. I always felt at the edge of my seat, the ambience and sounds always keeping me uneasy. No matter how many times I played, I always had goosebumps, wondering what was going to be around the corner. Even though I played through it, I still itched for more. The devs put a lot of effort into Dead Space, and it really shows. It really was more of a passion project than a job for Glenn. Overall, I give Dead Space 5 dead Nicoles out of 7 mentally insane Isaac Clarks.
Isaac, it's me. I wish I could talk to you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about everything.
I spent too many nights alone in my room.
Nobody would tell us what's happening.
I only talk to you. Every time I say goodnight, I figure I'm not the only one. But when I close my eyes, I can't stop dreaming of you. So won't you get out of my head, get out of my head tonight? 'Cause I know that I can't forget the day that we felt alive. So won't you get out of my head and go tell all your friends that you're the one that's bringing me down. So get out of my head, I hate that you're on my mind. I get scared to say those 3 words. And every night I think of you, I just want to dive into the deep end. I just want to roll over and text you, tell you the things I do for you. But I know I can't man up and say what's true. So won't you get out of my head, get out of my head tonight? 'Cause I know that I can't forget the day that we felt alive. So won't you get out of my head and go tell all your friends that you're the one that's bringing me down. So get out of my head, I hate that you're on my mind.
I'm just gonna say my final thoughts and just slap this MP3 file into the video. I want to thank you so much for watching. This was a massive feat for me to, for some reason, deciding to make an hour-long video on a fucking niche horror game was a feat. It was a feat. I'll say that. This took over a month to make, and I am really just surprised to myself that I managed to get this far and really just make this to completion. I really started making YouTube videos kind of just on a whim, and who knew that I would like it so much. I would say it's kind of a passion now. I want to thank Pyrocynical as a massive inspiration to me. He's kind of the reason why I'm making this kind of formula. Basically stealing his formula, essentially. Thanks, you British cunt. I just want to thank Ben Chandler for giving me permission to use this song in the end. I think it really worked out really well. I think the lyrics really kind of fit in with the theme of the game. And most importantly, I want to thank the boys, trademark, for kind of helping me with bits in song or in the game. My friends really kind of helped me kind of get through the cycle of just like thinking this video is shit and it's stupid and I should scrap the whole thing, and then I'll work on it and think, oh, it's not that bad, and then I fall into that cycle again and they just tell me you just gotta suck it up, and you know I managed to do it still, and just kind of helping me kind of get through this whole thing. I'm sorry, I'm fucking like my heart's racing, like I'm just kind of staring at this fucking video. Like, it's done. Like, it's done. And I'm just so happy. I'm so happy I managed to do this. I got another video idea. Hopefully it's not as long. It's only like a 4-hour game. But, you know, we'll see what happens with that. But, yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you later.